Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of CEOs You Should Know. I'm Kate O'Donnell, and joining me today are Cynthia Saniewski and Roberto Varela, co-founders of Bliss RX. Welcome. We're really excited to have you today, and I want to dive right in because there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of exciting things. So I'd love to start with you, Cynthia. You've had a deeply personal journey with mental health since your diagnosis in 2001. And a lot of other experiences that have shaped your view of healing and resilience and also led you to explore ketamine therapy and co-found this incredible company. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, so in 2001, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. I had a large brain tumor on the side of my right frontal lobe. There was an emergency surgery that had to happen about 10 days later. Luckily, it was benign, but the doctors basically told me that I was going to have to learn to rebuild my brain. I had to not only rebuild, physically, because I had scars everywhere, but internally as well. I had a lot of learning disabilities and a lot of fear growing up that I just wasn't smart enough or good enough. I just kind of felt like everybody was moving through life so much easier than I was. I would have to study really hard and to pass the test. All of my friends were like, oh, I didn't even study. And they would make like this great grade. So this kind of became like an internal thought that I had about myself, that I just wasn't smart enough, wasn't good enough, wasn't strong enough. And this is kind of a voice that was in my head always. So the doctors told me at the end of the surgery that your brain is very resilient. It can adapt in so many ways. You can feed it positive messages or you can feed it negative messages. So I spent the next few years slowly rewiring my brain, starting to speak nicer to myself and tell myself that I was good enough and that I was smart enough. And, the brain tumor's gone now. So you have all of these strengths just like everybody else. But it took me several years to repair this.
That's incredible. I'm so sorry you had to go through that, but I'm so glad that you're on the other side of it.
Yes.
And that's a true story of resilience when you look at everything that you went through. So and I'm sure it's something that you work with every day.
Yeah.
To continue that. That's incredible. So Cynthia, how did your experience as a single mom navigating life changes in 2023 influence your decision to explore ketamine therapy and eventually co-found this company?
So in 2023, I was faced with a new huge life hurdle. I was a mom of a 2-year-old, a stay-at-home mom, and now I was faced with a divorce. Honestly, I was terrified. I hadn't worked in a long time, and I was thinking, like, how am I going to rebuild myself? How am I going to create this structure for my daughter? And a lot of the old thought patterns came back. Am I good enough? Am I strong enough? Am I a fit mother for this? I wanted to show up and be the best person I could be for my daughter and create, a role model for her. But I didn't really have the time. I had to get out of this toxic environment and I needed to whip myself into shape much quicker than before. So I'd heard about ketamine therapy and how it can rewire your brain, build these new neural pathways. So I knew that this was possible. I went ahead and I gave it a shot. I think I was in ketamine therapy for about 6 months. And the best way I can think about it is, thinking outside the box. What was this next chapter was fear and, anxiety turned into an opportunity. Now I could really feel empowered and, really be a go-getter, get out there and do what I needed to do. And I remember telling Roberto at the time what had happened and that, the transformation had happened so quickly. And I think he heard it in my voice. He saw it in me. And a few days later, he called me and he said, I have not been able to stop thinking about this, Cynthia. This is something not only do we need to share with the world, but tell them how you did it. That was really, I'll never forget that phone call, because it was really the phone call that changed everything for us, like changed the course of everything.
That's incredible. So then you were able to co-found this, and you have an incredible entrepreneurial spirit, Roberto. How did growing up in Mexico City affect that and ultimately bring you to where you are today, co-founding this company?
Thank you. Yeah, Mexico City was the largest city in the world at the time, and it's a fast-paced and unforgiving environment that taught me how to be resilient, and there's no boundaries to what's possible. My grandfather would talk to me about everything, and I saw his resilience firsthand when his IBM computer distribution company suddenly changed as the world moved into software business models. That taught me that staying ahead of change is key. With Bliss Mist, we are at the forefront of evolving healthcare, bringing care to people virtually and delivering prescriptions to their door.
That's incredible. I know Bliss Mist RX really emphasizes that fully virtual, patient-centered experience. What inspired that model, and how do you continue to innovate while you're really an environment of trust and quality of care?
Yeah. I want to make things as easy as possible in my own life, and that was very important. But it's not just about the convenience and efficiency. It's about bringing the right doctors to as many people in as many places as possible. And virtual was the only way that we could do it.
And I know, Cynthia, you talked about, mental health before. It's not one size fits all. Everybody has a unique journey. How does that philosophy show up in the way that you lead your team and serve patients?
So I feel like, it's not one size fits all. Roberto and I are very hands-on in every aspect of this business, from the smallest things to the biggest decisions, but we each have our different strengths. He's more the tech side. He's innovative. He's forward thinking. He sees opportunities and things that I wouldn't have seen. I'm more research, compliance, patient experience, but we really complement each other. And we use the same mindset with our patients. There's no single path. We kind of meet the patients where they are in their journey, and we try to address their individual needs. Because, at the end of the day, I really think that people are looking for support, and they're looking for support as individuals.
It's an incredible partnership. So where do you see alternative treatments like ketamine fitting into, the broader future of mental health care?
I see ketamine therapy becoming a widely recognized tool in the mental health toolkit. As more doctors understand its unique potential, actually addressing neural pathways rather than just symptoms, I think it will sit alongside all of the other major options.
Awesome. I know you've spoken about it before in some of the stuff that I've read, and and everything you're saying is there's still a little bit of a stigma around some of these alternative therapies. So when you're looking at destigmatizing evidence-based alternative healthcare, what strategic steps are you taking to kind of shift that public perception, increase adoption, get the word out?
We are focusing on education and transparency. So we share links to peer-reviewed studies, trusted articles, and our own educational content so people can see the evidence themselves. We also highlight real patient stories with their permission and show how these treatments are making a difference. Step by step, we're making sure people have the facts so they can approach these therapies with confidence and reducing stigma over time.
Awesome. So how do you envision Bliss Mist RX contributing to the future of healthcare, particularly when you're looking at personalized integrative medicine, making everything more accessible to everybody?
I envision Bliss Mist in all states, and since we're virtual, you can live in a big city or in the middle of nowhere and have access to this alternative healthcare.
Awesome. Cynthia, you've shared a lot today. You're certainly an underdog. You're a survivor. What were some of the toughest challenges you faced, and how do you push through them?
Yeah, I do consider myself a bit of an underdog. I think anyone dealing with mental health issues we're navigating through the world just like anybody. But now we also are carrying this extra layer of trying to stay mentally afloat. I think the biggest challenge was rebuilding my life midway through my life, and taking away these negative thoughts, challenging the negative thoughts that used to control me and overcoming that. Ketamine was really the shift for me. It was the right place at the right time. I feel like I got really lucky. And yeah, it's given me a different perspective, and it's really helped me become the person that I knew that I could become for myself and my daughter.
So you are entrepreneurs. For other aspiring entrepreneurs looking to build purpose-driven healthcare companies, what advice would you give as you're looking to balance mission, ethics, sustainable growth? There's a lot, especially in this healthcare space, that you have to take into consideration.
Yeah, thank you. I love this question. I think the number one thing is find something that inspires you. Find something that you really can get behind, not something that just makes money, but also something that your heart is really in. You know, as an entrepreneur, you are going to be eating, sleeping, and breathing this vision. So it better be something that you absolutely love. You know, you need to build your team. You need to find people around you that are just as passionate about this as you are. For instance, our doctor on our team, Dr. Ryder, she is licensed in 11 states nationwide. So this is someone who's not just passionate about healthcare in her community, but national health. And at Blissmas, with her help, we've developed our business model in a way that we can give consultations for free, because we don't want cost to be a barrier when exploring these, new approaches. And, maybe it works for you, maybe it doesn't, but we want to get you in the door and find out if this is something that could work for you. In terms of growth, we want to access as many states as possible, bring awareness, and, bring it in a meaningful way.
And you're really building that model to be able to scale out to all of the states, which is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So, I can imagine a strong moral compass is integral in everything you're saying. That seems to be the underlying theme in what I'm hearing. How has that really guided you through difficult decisions, both in life and business?
Yeah, I think life is really just a journey and a series of decisions. These choices that you make along the way ultimately define you as a person. I've always tried to choose positivity and light and, making good ethical decisions. And I think that carries into my business life as well. You make good decisions morally, it changes everything. And in our case, it's changing people's lives. One of my favorite things about this job is getting emails from patients and them telling me, I've been on SSRIs for so many years, and all of a sudden, this is a game changer. And it's such a wonderful thing to hear. And, personally, I feel that when you're helping other people, it honestly helps you too. It just feels good in your heart, and it's a good place to be.
And that you get to hear those individual stories is incredible. So what's next? What's next for Blissmas? Are there any exciting developments, expansions?
In the next few months, we're going to be in most states in the U.S. So we're just waiting to sign a deal with our new compounding pharmacy. And once that's done and we hire a few more doctors, we're probably going to be in your state.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right. I love to kind of end on this question, but if there's one thing you want people to take away from your mission, what would it be?
Oh my gosh. I think the biggest takeaway is no matter who you are, where you are, you're not stuck. That change is possible. Your brain is resilient and it's adaptable. I think with the right support and the right tools, the right approach, you can really change the trajectory of your life. It's amazing. Everything we're doing is really centered around that. Giving access, removing barriers, people feeling seen and supported, empowered, because I just believe that, when people feel better, they show up better for themselves, for their family, in their work life. And it's really that, trickle down effect that we're after, right?
Absolutely. All right. So how can people engage with you? How can they support the work you're doing? How can they get more information?
People can join the community that we're building. They can go to blissmissrx.com. They can read our blogs, sign up for our email updates, follow us on Instagram, or go ahead and make an appointment with one of our doctors to see if Bliss Miss is the right fit for them.
Yeah.
That's great.
We'd love to hear from you guys.
That's awesome.
Any comments, questions, please send them over. We love it.
I have a feeling you will be. Well, thank you both, Cynthia and Roberto, so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure to learn more about your journey and your backgrounds. And I feel like there's a lot of awesome things on the horizon for Bliss Miss. And we're looking forward to watching it all happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you all for joining us today for CEOs You Should Know. And we'll see you next time.